Good morning. It's not Vietnam though. So, hey, let's see who we got. Mr. Beagle and Mr. Angle and Mr. Goats and Ms. Trina and Mr. Biologist Dude and Dave. Dave is here. So, everything is fine and good in the neighborhood. So, interesting thing happened to me the other day. Um, our garage door opener is acting up, and over the holidays, didn't really want to mess with it, and so I had to detach the door from the motor and close, just manually close the door. Unfortunately, it doesn't lock if you do that. And my neighbor told me that they found a garage door open one day, and their car had been rifled through, and somebody took change and an old checkbook and things like that. Well, our car happened to be locked. Didn't find anything missing from the garage. I think it was kids looking for something cheap, like money, where you didn't have to deal with it. So I had to rig up a piece of wire that I could put through the track to hold the door closed, locked as it were, while it's down until I can. I have to shift a whole bunch of stuff that's stored in the garage so that the guy that's going to fix the motor has space to deal with it. Anyway, that's this weekend's task. So anyway, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and there really wasn't a lot of theft because there wasn't really anything to steal from anybody unless you wanted to steal farm equipment. I suppose that could have been grand theft, but anyway, I'm probably a little naive and thought just having a visually closed door would be good enough, but I guess that people are persistent enough that they'll just go down a street and try doors. So, my bad. That's what I get for being a kind, trusting person. Anyway. Did not sleep well last night either. I forgot to take my melatonin, and it actually does help when I take it. So I woke up several times during the night because I forgot to take it. Anyway, that's what's going on. So, how is everybody this morning? Isn't a slide lock on the inside of the garage door? Not that I could see, but then again, I'm also a little naive or ignorant about garage doors, so maybe there is. I don't know. Yeah, well, there should be. You should be able to turn the handle and lock it, shouldn't you? I don't know. Anyway, but the piece of wire works. So, I believe that Garth is quite a ways away from the fires, aren't you? Oh, this isn't even um, a proper short integer garage door. It probably only has 8 positions or combinations. Anyway, hugs, Trina. Yeah, maybe there is a lock, or maybe that's what I stuck the wire through and just couldn't tell what it was. Anyway, long and short of it, I'm gonna get it taken care of this weekend. So, um, yeah. So I've been fiddling around with, to get to today's subject, fiddling around with the next version of Adventure while I'm still trying to get Adventure done. VCF Midwest is a short 35 weekends away. And you put it into terms of 35 weekends, it really starts to look like it's coming up pretty fast. 200 plus days sounds like a lot, but 35 weekends, and I kind of work in that kind of frame of mind. How many weeks do I have? I decided to actually bust out Microsoft Project version 4 for the Macintosh and kind of type in what I need to do. And so I'm going to have to set aside vNext and focus on the text adventure game and get that squared away. I need to have it ready for both the manuals for the editor and the game, and the game itself ready for testing by Marcintosh. So there's that too. So got to get busy on that. But I wanted to talk about one of the problems I'm having with vNext. So there's the idea behind it is to do an isometric view, which is a common, graphical game interface for a dungeon crawl or something like that. Makes it easy to draw, and you can draw it with tiles, so you can have a grid of tiles that define the floor and the walls and things like that. Well, one of the challenges I'm having is managing copying and pasting tiles so that it's scripted. One way around it would, to simplify things, is just have an image for each card in the game that is a location, and just draw out the entire image without having to piece it together from tiles. And I could do that. I'm not a graphic artist, but there's ways I could get around that. But I'd rather have something I generate. I write code for a reason. I'm a programmer, and dynamically generating the view or the location is appealing to me, and it also allows you to do random game elements and things like that you couldn't do otherwise. So I've been playing around a little bit with the graphics engine, prototyping it, if you will. Let me switch to my computer. Pardon me while I find the button. Okay. So you can grab the right mouse. Yeah, so here was Microsoft Project while I was installing it. Get this out of the way. Get the installers out of the way. Sorry, I wasn't really prepared this morning like I normally am. Normally I'd have all this running already. We don't want adventure. We want isometric. Okay. So this is the proof of concept. And you can see, I've got a little guy in there. I've got a computer on a table and a chair and a chest. And, here's a stairway going to the next level up. Okay. I have animation that I've worked out. So if you look at the sconces, it's probably not very clear on the screen because it's kind of small. The flames are actually moving. And I can pause that. And then I've got this script that will walk you through erasing the screen and which tool to use, drawing a grid, yada, yada, yada. So Oh, and this text area that says card field flame is for handling those card fields so that you can pull them off, start them and stop them, that kind of thing. So if we change this to use, there's two ways that several ways you can copy stuff. There is a select tool and a lasso. And the way these work, so let's go to this screen here where I've got a bunch of stuff. If you select the select tool, it gives you a rectangle you can select things with. If you hold the command key down while you're selecting, it'll hug the dimensions of whatever you're doing, and it does that by figuring out where the black pixels are. So if I had some stuff over here and I went and did a command select, it would hug that. Yeah, lasso that like button. So this works. However, if you're building a scene, you run into problems. So if let's say I want this wall, and I'm going to put this wall next to an arch. Now, and that's set to transparent. That's another thing that we got to talk about. Let's make it opaque. And you put it here, you'll notice my wall has extra white space here because it's not a square tile, it's an isometric tile. Can you write code to turn each pixel on or off? Yes. You could select the pencil tool and set the location and do a click. You could also do a drag, and you could do what you do manually. You can turn the screen off so that it's not displaying it, and that does speed it up a bit because you're working on a buffer instead of the main screen, but it's still very slow. So there are ways you could do that. All right, so this is problematic if you're building a scene. If you use this to do it, you're going to end up obscuring stuff because you paint from the distance back or forward, right? So that's not going to work. If you use the lasso tool, and I drag this around, it automatically hugs your image. So if I do the lasso over here, it's getting all of it. If I do the lasso of this, it's just getting this. But there are some issues with how this works. You notice the hatching on the selection. It's because if you, let's do fat bits so you can see. You'll notice that the edge of this is not entirely encased in a border of black. So when you use the lasso tool, it's actually selecting into your image and only doing the contiguous sections of black. So whenever you draw an image, you got to be careful and fill in the edge on the image to make sure that you're selecting all of what you want for whatever it is. So you can go, and you have to be careful if you leave this kind of adjacent pixel thing empty, it'll bleed through there. So if I go and I fill this in, oops. So we're just going to do a really quick fill in. Of course, I'm making a mess of it. So you can see the artwork can get a little tedious, because of the limitations of the tools you have. So this probably isn't going to work because I've got this little adjacent thing here, but let's try it, see what happens. Grab the lasso tool, if we move it, you know, it's going to move all the black pixels because they're encased in it. Yeah, so that works. If we grab the sand, this floor, you can see how it's not really selecting everything that's encased inside it. But that is, because it's not jiggly on the selection for the interior. And here it is. So if I take this, and let's say I put it over here, you can see how it's transparent, and it actually doesn't obscure it. So that's one way of solving the problem. You could make it transparent, and then that way you wouldn't be obscuring anything. But then it looks weird when you layer things. You know, if I put a desk in front of something, I want the desk surface to obscure it, and unless your desk is solid black, it's not going to do that. So there are options with the paint tools. I could say paint opaque. Now, it still doesn't do it, what you think it might do, because it's a 1-bit color system. The white bits are considered to be transparent here. And this is where I need to read up on it a bit more. To see if there's a way to actually paint white in between, so it's transparent white and black. And some of the comments that I got from people online were there are ways to do that. Yeah, 1 bit is all you need. Anyway, so, but when I write these things, I try to do straight up HyperCard solutions first before I use external commands. You could use direct draw. There's an XCMD that I forget the gentleman's name. He's been helping me out with suggestions for things that does direct draw commands so that you can use them in HyperCard, and you can use masking. So there's, again, I need to research this more because graphics is not my strong suit, but there's a way to mask it. So I suppose you could mask it or define a mask so that you know what the region is that you're trying to select, and it doesn't matter whether the bit's black or white. So, yeah. So there's that. So I was trying to figure out ways to get around this. And one of the things you can do, see, that still doesn't do what you want. And I remember I need to do all this programmatically. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1 bit. If you've got, lets you do source copies, source or XOR. Yeah, so if you could do some masking with an XOR or something like that, that would probably do it. I think. I can't remember. It's been forever. Yeah, if you do hold command while doing if you hold command and click, it selects the entire image. If you do command and you hit a black pixel, it'll also try to grab just the parts that you want, but you'll notice unless you've got a contiguous black region, it doesn't select everything. So there's the command click thing works, but it doesn't quite do what you want. See, I didn't collect everything. So that's not really a solution either, unless you draw your graphics a certain way. Yeah, exactly. So I was messing around with this trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do. So I thought I'll just go with the transparency part. So my initial design or solution, let's go back to the main screen. So if we use the select tool with transparency, you'll get something that kind of works. So let's generate it. So there's a grid. I've turned off the screen blanking so you could see the process. It copies the what you want over into the corner and then clicks and drags and moves it. So you'll notice this kind of works, but if you take a look at the stairway, you can see the wall through the stairway. The floor is not a problem because it's light enough that you really can't tell, but you can see the line for the tile for the floor. So you look at it with fat bits. Yeah, that's too fat. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see in fat bits. There you go. You can kind of see the line for the floor here. And that's not part of the stairway image. So that's not really a solution either. The computer, you can see the floor. It's not opaque on the computer. Well, I was messing around with it because I wasn't happy with this. I mean, it would work for a game, but it wasn't ideal. When I happened to be messing around with, another possible way of doing this, I thought, was let's programmatically use the lasso. So if you have the lasso, you could tell it to draw from this point to this point to this point to this point, you know, and then it would select, right? The problem is that's 4 draw commands. Draw does not work with a rectangle. It's a point-to-point command. Yeah, 1bit's talking about the right way to do this. You use some logic with the sprite when you're painting it to tell whether it's opaque or not. You know, if I was using, you know, the color tools with this and I had color images, you could have opaque regions that are different colors, and that, you know, white is a color, so you could do that. So there's ways to do it. Anyway, so what I did was I tried to see if I could use the draw command to say draw from, you know, from this point to here, and then draw from this point to here. But you see the problem with the draw command that way. It doesn't really do a region. You can't draw from 0, 0 to, you know, 128, 128, because that's just a line through your image. And the only reason why it's more than a pixel wide is because, of course, I'm not drawing a perfect straight line. So there isn't a draw region command. With the select tool, that works. You can, because when the select tool works and you drag, you're doing opposite corners, so you get a region or a rectangle. So now I'm back to the problem of, well, if I don't want to pick up these corners that are white and obscure something, I have to draw it with transparency. But then you have the problem that, you know, we see on here where you can see through things. And I thought, okay, so I'll just let it sit for a while. I started messing around with the tools to see what I could actually script. And I happened on this. I don't even know why I even tried it, but if you've got this worked. I don't know if you have to do everything this way. If you do the lasso tool, and then you do select all in the menu, or is it, yeah, it's select all. You get the entire screen, right? I think you just have to have any drawing tool. In fact, it changes to the rectangular select. If I then do select, because I had the lasso tool, so I guess you could do select all, choose lasso tool, then this, but I did it the other way around. You notice how it's grabbing everything. And I think this is kind of what I want. So if you look at one of my tiles, so this is a background image, and it's only so I have an idea of where the tile borders are. So that's in the background. We're working with the foreground. So you can ignore the box, 3D box you see there. If I do select all, that gets everything. This is the only image that's in there is this, and then I do select, I'm only getting what I want then. If I drag it, I get everything. If I go to my main screen again, and I use the lasso tool, the way I'll show you the code in a minute, and I draw this, you no longer have the issue of transparency. Looks a lot better. So let's look at the code for it here. I'm using the idle to animate the flames. So those are actually fonts, and A corresponds to a flame in a particular, cell or animation cell of the flame. Character B is another one, so it's a little different, and you cycle through, I think it's A through K or L or something like that. Anyway, so what this does is the idle loop actually tells it to animate by changing the characters in that field. And I pass idle to the card field because I believe backgrounds and cards can get idle as well as your stack, but the objects within those cards do not get sent the idle message. Idle is a message, a system message that executes on every tick. So if you try to animate something on every tick, it's going to be way too fast and it'll slow your game down and stuff. So there is a mod 20 to say on every 20th tick it should actually execute that. So when it does that, and of course I've messed up the, I got to work on this. Well, I've messed it up. Anyway, let's not worry about it right now. So if I redraw it, yeah, I've messed up my animation. Again, proof of concept. So here's the character. And the text has only got a few characters in it. It doesn't use sample, so it's not doing that image. and you have to programmatically set it to the font that you created. And then that font you have to create by hand, and you have to use Resource Mover, or not Resource Mover, the Resource Editor? Res Edit. Thank you, Eric. Brain. You have to use Res Edit to copy it to your stack so it's available. Yeah, if it were all in C, it would be different, but this is HyperCard, so I'm torturing myself with the limitations of HyperCard. Anyway, so that idle supposed to take care of the flame. So if we go into the drawing routine for the graphics, that's for drawing a grid, drawing a cube, so these were all experiments on things. Draw a tile. That's not the one I want. Oh, here we go. So draw a cube. That's not what I want either. Sorry, I got a lot of leftover code in here. Copy cell, that's the one. So I'm copying the cell from one card to another and then moving it to that location. So first thing it does is I've been fiddling around with global values, so I'm calling a routine to set the globals each time, even though, you know, once it's all set I won't have to do that. So there's a map to screen function that figures out the coordinates from the map to the screen. Yeah, C is torture too, because you have to be handling everything instead of letting HyperCard at a higher level language do it. And then I've got a routine here that deals with buttons for fields, for animation, and that copies them over. But here's where the painting goes. So I reset paint because I want to make sure I've got paint controls where I want them. I've got a global that tells me whether I'm using the select tool or not. But if I'm using the lasso, so it's choose lasso tool, select all, select, command key down, C, so command C is copy. Then I switch to the game card, paste it, and then if I was using the select tool, I'd use that transparent setting so that I could keep from obscuring things. Drag from the center of the tile to where I want to drag to, and then choose the browse tool. So it's pretty simple. As long as you've got decent graphics for things, you end up with this, and it's good enough for a game. Now, live, it's not going to be drawing these things because it's way too slow. So even if I've got the screen locked, so let's lock the screen, and at the end we'll unlock the screen, and we're going to draw, and it sits and spins for a bit. And then you got your cell. In a dungeon crawl game, that wouldn't be terrible, but you got to remember I'm on a Power Mac G3, so I kind of would like this to work on lower level machines. So this is going to be too slow. Oh, 1-bit fever dreams. I think he has an LC with capture, but that was a while ago. I'm curious to know as well, Eric. Emulator or hardware that you're using right now? I just said. So it's a Power Macintosh G3. So Power PC. If I were in, you'll notice that the screen's a little bit bigger than normal. I decided with this game to forego working on a 9-inch screen. I might change it so it works on the screen sizes for PowerBook screen size, because the PowerBooks do have more power. But right now I'm thinking desktop size, or obviously mini VMac or an emulator. So anyway, I think this'll work well enough. But that's for the next version of Adventure, not for the current version. And I need to stop playing around with this and get busy. So, things are coming along in Adventure, but there's still a lot left to do. I've been mostly working on the plot and locations and beefing up. I had very simple one-sentence descriptions for locations when I started the game. And writing, again, is also not my strong suit. What is my strong suit? I'm not sure. I thought it was HyperCard, but I'm learning that the more I do with HyperCard, the less I really know about it, and especially the internals. It's it's a challenge when all the material you got is what's out there. In fact, I was referring to Danny Goodman's book, which is for HyperCard 2.2. And he actually has a sentence in here where he says that you can't use drag with the selection tools, which is not exactly correct for 2.4. I haven't gone back to 2.2 to see whether or not it's that way. The select tool does work with drag. I think he may have been speaking of the lasso tool. Would not work with drag. But it does actually drag. It just doesn't have the effect that you think it does. Maybe in version 2.2 of HyperCard it didn't work at all and ignored the drag command. I don't know. But in 2.4 it does work. So, anyway, back to Adventure. So, where I'm at today is I'm writing and rewriting locations. I did change a little bit of the mechanics. I wanted to make sure that if you did a magic spell that you had a wand, things like that. And dependencies between objects is not something I've really got built into the game engine. So it was custom code to do that. My strong suit is waking up early on Saturdays. I was thinking this morning before I got started that maybe 2 a.m. would be a better time frame for me. I seem to code better in the evening than I do in the morning. But there's a reason why I'm doing Saturday morning. For one reason, Big Bad Biologist is going to be live streaming at noon. Make sure you catch it. He hasn't been on in a while. Amber usually streams in the evening, early evening or late afternoon. You got Dave's stream. That's pretty much half the day of Sunday. And there's other, people that stream weeknights and things like that. But, family time gets in the way sometimes for weeknights and makes it a challenge to do a schedule. So Saturday morning, I've sacrificed sleeping in to be able to do this. Not to mention Dave or to mention Dave and Garth. They're 3 years in the 3 hours in the past. So they're getting up very early. Yeah, gotta warm up the crowd. Hey, why don't you drop a link to your live stream in here so that people can get it? Anyway, long and short of it is, 35 weeks sounds like a lot, but it's not. And I'm mostly working on things 1 or 2 nights a week or on the weekend, and that doesn't leave a lot of time. If I worked 1 day a week, 35 days isn't a whole lot of time to be finishing up debugging, getting the documentation ready, building the box set, designing the box set, putting it together, printing and cutting and pasting, the manual together, and there's a bunch of stuff I have to do for VCF, and yeah, I need to get busy. So there's that. And you can only work on something so long before you start going crazy. So that's why I diverted myself to playing around with this. So let's see. Eric Rangel. I just stream boring videos on Tuesday nights. Nobody watches. Yeah, we all do that to a certain extent. You want a good example? See my earlier work, where I was going to try to regurgitate all of the facts of HyperCard in a long, dry academic series of how the internals of HyperCard work. I got bored with doing that, and found it a little too dry. So there's the link to Big Bad Biologist, Big Bad Bench. Tune in. So anyway, maybe I'll end up using the X command that is it UI witness? You witness? I can't. I think that's his handle or their handle. Mentioned the code. It's in GitHub for the X command, so that you can do direct draw graphics. So maybe I'll end up messing around with that. It might be faster. I don't know. So yeah, because I was making a point about the speed. With it being this slow, what I intend to do is to script out as part of the game what the layout for the screens are. So in the editor, you can drag and drop and design your location, and then it'll script it and generate it. And that way you can edit the script. So it'd be like I could edit the code, or I can use the graphical user interface programming environment to create the script by dragging and dropping elements. Think about the choo-choo train stack that came with the first version of HyperCard. It's part of my intro, the video of the train that's going around on track. That was another kind of a thing where you could lay out cells for a train and then have it animate. So you could program it with a graphical user interface, or you could program it by editing the script. So that's what I'm headed for, because I want to have an editor for the game as well as the game itself. Then you would generate your game, and each location would be a separate card with the graphics already written. You'd have whatever assets that you need to have on it already, and we talked a little bit about the character animation. What you would do, instead of having a raw image for the character, the monsters and the player, that would be a font, and you'd use a text cell, and you would place it over, in a position, and drag it and animate it by changing the character, literally. That's how the Novell stack works for the animated butterfly. The thing you can do with that is you can use certain font settings. I believe you use outline, so that it's opaque and it isn't transparent and show through. So there's ways you can do that with a font so that you don't have the problem of, oh, this guy looks like a ghost. Yeah. So I'm going to use that technique. I think Bree did the same thing for Blob, where the character is actually a font that he moves around on the screen. So I'll use that for animation. And the downside is that if you want to use the editor, you're going to have to create a font. And that's something you're not going to do inside the game editor. You'd have to go out, create your own font. Maybe I'll provide some generic fonts that are already built into it and stuff. But you can see where I'm going with it. I want to have a HyperCard game that's fully playable and an editor for it, so that people that don't know how to do programming can still build their own game. One of the other things I'm going to add to it is I want to have code segments. So maybe you are a programmer. You can have dialogue controls and things like that, or a meta language or a 4GL kind of a language, so that you could handle things like, this is how I want the dialogue to go between characters, and have choices and have it drive a menu so that you can have conversations and things like that. So it's where it's headed. Everything will be stored in a database. I've already got a SQLite kind of SQL Server XCM, or yeah, it is an XCMD. It's not written in C though. I wrote it in HyperCard and then converted it with Compile-it. That does a simple SQL syntax, so that the database is a lot easier, because the code for this for Adventure is pretty convoluted for the text database it's got. So if you were a programmer and wanted to modify how the game mechanics worked, it'll be a lot easier. You don't have to do quite as much hypertalk. Yeah. All right. Anyway, that's pretty much it I have for today. Oh, Maca Mug face elements is 100% fonts. Oh, I didn't know that. Yep. See, that's a common solution for this kind of thing. They avoided the problem of having to manipulate graphics like this. Although you could do Maca Mug face elements using these images if you wanted to. That would work. And just do the lasso command to move them around. Is there a Petski font for Mac? I don't know. They're all bitmap fonts. Yeah, it'd be interesting. You could use a big text field and then position your text in such a way that you could draw a picture. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities out there. Yeah, ResEdit is you could install the font and then it'll show up in the menu, so that when you're in HyperCard and you're selecting a font, you can actually select it. If you drop a font into the stack with ResEdit, it doesn't show up in the font list. You have to programmatically set the font to your text field. So there are some challenges with it. I like embedding the font inside the stack, because then it's carried with the stack. You don't have to have a separate installation program to install the font in the system. Yeah, so these are all tips and tricks. Some of them I get from this book. How about a pet emulator for the Mac? Well, I do have Neko, where I've got... You mean pet as in the computer, not pet as in an animal. Sorry, capital P pet. I don't know. Is there a pet emulator? There's an Apple II emulator for classic Mac. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway. Like and subscribe if you're not. If you want a T-shirt with some cool graphics on it and stuff, go ahead and check out my Threadless shop. I've got a website for Adventure called quackofdawn.com that you can visit. I am doing some work so I can do some blogging up there. Right now I'm using Coffee as my blogging engine, and that seems to be working okay, but I do want to have multiple places where you can see see the blog. And the current trend with the internet, I think it's important that we start creating web sites and stop using, or to augment using social media and the other things, because I want to make sure that no matter what happens, I have my stuff and I have it available to anyone, and I don't have to worry about this company or that company deciding to. I'm going to get started on politics here. Doing what they want to do because they see it as good for business. Let's put it that way. Oh, the other thing too, if anybody would, well, let me change screens here so you can see what I'm doing. Hang on. There we go. I have some new stickers. So I've got this. This is Bill Atkinson, the creative hypercard. It's the icon that's inside the stack. So there's this I Know hypercard sticker that I can give out. I have my admittedly kind of dark Quack of Dawn character sticker. This is the artwork for the front of the box. And then there's the classic Frighten Your Children Eric's Edge sticker. So if you've got rodents you need to get rid of, you could place these strategically. Or if you want to scare small children, they're good for that. So if you want a sticker or any, these 3 stickers basically, just drop me a direct message and I'll throw them in the mail for you. I've got international stamps, so don't let that stop you either. Doesn't cost that much to mail internationally. So, in fact, I've got a request from 3 people for stickers, and I've got envelopes sitting here, so that's something else I got to get done today, is get those in the mail. All right. I guess that's it. See everybody. I'll see everybody, hopefully, if I'm not busy doing something else. I want to watch Big Bad Biologist with whatever janky thing he's doing today. Or not janky, as the case may be. See you guys at noon. All right. Bye.